Morning, guys. I'm a little bit tired right now, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So let's make another quick video going over some behind the scenes footage from one of my client projects. And this one is a restaurant food shoot. So the brief is the client wants some photos of their menu taken in a very plain black background. The food is sushi. We have a half day of production. The location is at one of their stores, and we are shooting this solo and bringing in all the gear, including the backdrop. So the logic here is I'm gonna use a C-stand global arm as a way to hold up the backdrop, and we're just using some black paper from the arts and crafts store clamped up to the global arm, and then we're going to use some Photoshop generative fill to expand the background and make the images nice and wide. The gear we're going to be using is the Sony a7 IV with the Tamron 28-75 f2.8 G1 lens. The camera is going to be in a travel tripod. We are going to be using a USB-C to USB-C cable to tether the a7 IV to an iPad to use as a client monitor. That way we can get all the shots approved right then and there. A C-stand to hold up the backdrop, a black backdrop, some clamps to hold it up, gloves, tweezers, and other miscellaneous stuff to handle the food and do some staging. Finally, we're going to be lighting this using the small rig RC220B and an 80cm softbox, as well as a little pocket light. So let's take a look at some of the behind the scenes footage, and I'll run you guys through some of the improvements I think we could have done by the end of the video. So we're tilting the camera down about a 45-degree angle. We're using manual focus. We're also going to be using a self-timer on the camera. That way we can ensure that we have all the shots nice and lined up, because the camera's going to be shooting when I'm not touching it. You can see here I'm doing some of the staging with the food. You know, little things like just placing the food in the right place and setting things up on a proper angle really go a long way. Using gloves for this as well, so you don't get your fingers all sticky and oily from the food and then go and touch your camera with it. I don't think I have any photos of that here, but we also use some tweezers and those little makeup wedges to prop up the food. Here you can see the client monitor, so we just have an iPad just set up off to the side so the client can come and see whenever we get the food up and shot and everything's nice and ready. I can just ask the client to come over and they can tell me whether or not the shot is all they like. That way, if the shot's good, I can just favorite it on the app, and then when I import it into Lightroom, I can just go through all of the favorites and edit those. Here's another shot. You can see me just standing in the back. You can kind of see the setup. And now let's take a look at some of the videos. So you can kind of see the setup here. So it's just a key light just tilting down, nothing special. It's a nice and big softbox for this sort of product size. Then here we're using some tweezers to grab the food, spin it around, make sure it looks all nice and good. So we take a shot, we take a look at it over on the iPad, we talk over that with the client wants some changes, so we just adjust, shoot again, and boom, that's done. On to the next one. Depending on how many items you have in the menu or how much food you're shooting or products or whatever it is, because the setup could be the same for all of those, it can take you more or less time, because the setup in and of itself, it's not really that hard. And yeah, I think that's it for the behind the scenes footage. I'm just gonna leave you guys with some of the final results right now. So reflecting back on this project, some of the improvements we could have done, I think the major one is just packing a lighter, having a smaller setup, and just having everything in one case, which is what I have now after doing jobs like this, where I realized that was just too much of a hassle. If you can't park right next to the place, you have to haul this gear around by yourself. It's just a massive annoyance. It gets very tiring and cumbersome to carry all the heavy stuff around. So yeah, having a smaller setup, easier to pack and travel with, would have been really nice to have at a time, but that's sorted now. The other thing is just having a bigger backdrop paper would have really eliminated the need to use so much Photoshop, both to expand the background to the correct size, as well as you can see in one of the behind scenes photos that I'm going to put up on the screen right now, that we're actually using two pieces of backdrop paper and we just sort of tape them together, but you can see a little fringe in the middle of them, so we also had to Photoshop all of that out in every single photo. Now if you're shooting a whole menu, that can be tens of photos that you're gonna have to do this correction in. So using just a bigger backdrop paper would have instantly fixed that, but that's what we could get the hold of for at the time. So we did what we could with what we had. And I'm super happy with the photos. And yeah, that's it. Pretty simple job. In theory, it's really easy to accomplish. I hope you guys took some value out of this, maybe learned a thing or two. And yeah, that's it. Stay safe.